Thanks for staying with us on the news at 1. Now, South African banks are being threatened by a delay in money laundering law. That's according to the Paris-based Financial Action Taskforce. The group has warned that the country's banks risk being exposed to illicit money flows that could further harm investor sentiment. The Financial Intelligence Centre Amendment Bill has still not been signed into law. President Jacob Zuma cited concerns about the bill being unconstitutional and sent it back to Parliament. Parliament then sent the bill back to the President with very few changes. Cas Coovadia, the Managing Director of the Banking Association of South Africa, has warned that time is running out for the bill to be signed into law. He joins me in studio now. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Why is it so important that this bill gets signed into law by June?
Well, the Financial Action Taskforce in February gave us until June, gave us a respite actually until June to sign it. The issue is that the amendments to the bill actually bring us up to international best practice in combating money laundering, terrorism financing and other sorts of activities that could go through the banking sector that would not be in the national interest. And so if we don't sign the bill, the message we are sending out is that we are not at the cutting edge of international best practice. Our banks do not have the appropriate systems and methodologies in place to quickly identify such transactions and refer them to the Financial Intelligence Centre. That can't be in the national interest. It, as your clip says, it actually further reduces investor confidence in the country, because there'd be a view, a perception that we are not being very, very clear about how we actually going to combat these sorts of transactions. And so we just can't understand why the bill hasn't been signed. The President did refer the bill to Parliament, referred a particular section in the bill to Parliament, saying that it is unconstitutional. Parliament, the Standing Committee on Finance, had public hearings on that, on the President's referral, and 6 senior counsel representing 6 interests, including ourselves, the committee itself, said that the President's concerns were invalid and that the section itself does bear constitutional muster, and the bill bears constitutional muster. And so it was sent back to the President with minor changes that made explicit what was already implicit in the bill. So the President has 2 choices. He either signs the bill or refers it to the Constitutional Court. But his office has been sitting on this for the last 2 months with no reason why it's not being signed, even though his issues have been addressed. And so we would urge that it be signed like yesterday.
What are the implications if it's not signed, besides harming investor sentiment?
Well, the South African banking sector is the second most sound banking sector in the world, according to the World Competitive Report. Okay, we have that standing because we are very, very careful about the way we do our business. Our regulators are absolutely clear that we will be at the cutting edge of international best practice when it comes to banking regulation. If we don't sign this bill, it impacts on correspondent banking relations that our banks have with other banks in other countries. So other banks will start asking questions whether we are actually robust enough in our systems to combat money laundering, and it will impact on those correspondent relationships. It will, on the back of the ratings downgrades and the trend that we're not taking seriously what global players think about our economy and our systems, on the back of that, it actually raises confidence issues in the country, and just makes it more difficult for us to actually raise finance and to raise investment.
People have said about this FICA bill that what it's going to do is police black wealth, and people have said politically exposed persons is just a smokescreen for policing black wealth. What's your response to that?
It's just, not to put too fine a point on it, it's just nonsense, okay? Because the bill is absolutely clear. It says that the banks, it introduces a risk-based approach towards looking at these issues, okay? So it says that if you, an ordinary person on the street that has an account that doesn't have large sums of money going through those accounts, the banks don't have to actually regulate you to the extent that they are regulating you currently, okay? Whereas if you have accounts that are through which large volumes of transactions go, and if you are politically connected individual, not just in government, but even in business. So even it's not as if it's just government connection, it's also businesses that are politically connected. The banks would have to have stronger oversight over those sorts of accounts, because those sorts of accounts are more susceptible to these sorts of activities. It doesn't matter whether you are a black person or a white person. It doesn't matter whether your shareholders are black or white. It's the nature of the accounts that you run. So it's just a red herring. The portfolio committee in Parliament actually said that there's no validity to those accusations, and we must move beyond that, and this bill must be signed.
Thank you very much for your time on SABC News. Cas Coovadia joining us there in studio. Now, Eskom has